It is just about time for the National Women's Soccer League to get started, the NWSL. It starts in mid-March. In fact, on Friday the 13th, I believe, is opening night of the season. And Jill Loyden is with us now to talk a little bit about that and what she does and why she got into broadcasting and anything else we come up with. So, Jill, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to have a conversation that hopefully people bring a little excitement for the league, but also enjoy.
Well, it is an interesting time. I do want to talk about you, but it really is an interesting time to be in the business of soccer, World Cup coming up, the business of women's soccer in the NWSL, how it's growing, how the ownership, wealthier people are in the business now. You feel that? I mean, is this kind of an energy that you bring to the season?
Yeah, I tell my family all the time, I'm sorry that I was playing soccer in the wrong generation. um, because the women now have so many resources available to them, so much backing, so much support. And, it continues the excitement levels, the energy, the buzz, just the amount of people that are invested into women's sports and soccer, specifically in our country, the NWSL, is just remarkable. And I feel really lucky and grateful to be a part of it, just in a different way now.
So, do you, when you walk to the market, when you walk to school with the kids, do they say, "Hey, I saw you on TV"? You get that?
Oh no, my kids don't even, they know I'm on TV, but they don't think it's that cool. They just know that I'm mom. But yeah, it's really fun because I get to expose, I have two sons, they're 5 and 3, get to expose them to women's sports at a really young age. And we're trying to raise them to understand that, women's sports isn't secondary to men's sports, that it actually is filled with incredible people and incredible stories that really can resonate with them.
Now, I'm sorry to bring this up, and if you're uncomfortable, don't answer it if you're not. But I just felt like by some, when the United States women's hockey team won the gold medal, and then the men won the gold medal, that the women were treated by some, especially in the media, I'm sorry to say, which I've been in for almost 50 years, treated the women more second fiddle than they should have been. Did you feel that?
Yeah, yeah. Quite frankly, yesterday was a really difficult day for me. With everybody having a take on this and people kind of doubling down, like you're making something out of nothing. And I think for a long time, women have always just been the butt of jokes. And I think that what felt so traitorous about the whole situation was that the men had been so publicly in support of the women, but then when it comes to the locker room, then maybe weren't as in support of the women. And there was one guy that was yelling 2 for 2, which I thought was cool. But, I think for a long time, we've been fighting so hard to be considered as equals in the sports world, and are finally getting some of the credit and publicity that the women deserve in terms of, how much energy they put towards something. And I think, as women, we don't need men to validate our successes. And I hope that we can all glean something and positive from, this experience.
Well, thank you for addressing that. I appreciate it. Having been a boy all my life, and it's a long life, the days of boys will be boys crap is long, way past. There's no excuse. There's no reason. There's no explanation at all that boys will be boys. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I don't blame the men's hockey team at
Mhm,
all. I just
mhm.
think it was a bad joke from the leader of our country. And I think probably the men were somewhat uncomfortable and felt like they had to laugh at something like that. So, um, when the leader of your country says something that is trying to be hurtful or snarky, it kind of gives permission to everyone else to feel that way. And, I wish that there was more intentionality around the way that we view and speak about women.
How do you feel about the place women have in American soccer then?
It's continuing to get better and better, and it is so hard for me to fathom that people wouldn't deem it as serious or as good as men's soccer when women have dominated in our country for as long as soccer has existed in our country for women. And the women continue to push boundaries and be the standard bearers in our country for football. And I just think that there's this bias toward men's football as being the only football. And I don't think that everyone does it on purpose, but I just think it's something that everybody has to check in with themselves to make sure that they're not, playing into that bias.
How do you then bring that message, that tone, that feel to your broadcast of the NWSL?
I think it's really, I don't work in men's soccer anymore. I don't work in the MLS, and I've kind of made a decision to just work in women's football at the moment, because I don't view men as being the better league. I don't view the MLS as being a superior league to the NWSL. I don't view myself as being in the women's space to, quote, get repetitions so that I can get, quote, better jobs on the men's side. I think that the NWSL is one of the best leagues in our country and in the world. And I am very grateful and lucky to be part of that. And I think there are some really incredible women in our league who are doing incredible things and have incredible stories that I feel really fortunate to be able to share with the audience.
I've been told by plenty of folks, in Europe included, that the NWSL is the best league in the world. Do you agree with that?
I think that there's differences around the world, but what I do think is that our league is the most competitive league. And I think one of the beautiful natures about sports is it's so unpredictable, right? And just when you feel like, oh, Kansas City is going to run away with this, they lose, right? And you're so close to being predictable on who you think is going to win, but really it's such unpredictability within the league, because anybody can really win, which is, I think, makes it the most exciting. But yeah, I think there's different leagues in the world that have different advantages.
Yeah. What does your goalkeeping career bring to your broadcasting? How does that help you?
I think I have a unique perspective because a lot of people in the broadcast world weren't necessarily goalkeepers. And I think, what the easy things to talk about are the goal scoring opportunities, but typically we only get to hear one angle of that goal scoring opportunity or the goal. And it's quite often not the goalkeeper's perspective unless they have a gaffe and they give up a howler. So I think I have a unique perspective to be able to educate people on the position, because I'm so biased, but I do believe it's one of the most important on the field and the most misunderstood and the least resourced in terms of education when it comes to football. So I think I am able to help the audience understand what the goalkeeper did well, or maybe where they can improve, or why it might look like a mistake, but it actually was just, a really good shot by Trinity Rodman. So I think it's a unique perspective that people are excited to hear about, because it's one that they often feel really unaware about.
Yeah. You have lots of other opportunities and business interest in soccer, but why broadcasting? I don't know how that started, but they called you and said, "Hey, you want to give this a shot?" Why? Why did you do it?
Oh, golly. So in 2014, I retired. In 2015, the Philadelphia Union called me and they were like, "Hey, Heather Mitz was doing our pregame and halftime show, and she's moved on, and she gave us your name." And I was like, "Well, let's end the call right there, because I don't do TV. I am deathly afraid of the camera. Anytime I have to speak to the camera, I struggle. I get, anxious and sweat." And I was like, "But I'll think about it and I'll call you back." And I called a couple of friends who were in broadcast, and I was talking to them about their experience. And I think deep down within me, I thought, I don't want to not do something because I'm afraid of it. And so I was like, "Okay, I will come down to the studio and I'll have a conversation with your host and we'll see if this all works out." And before I left the studio, they were like, "Well, we want you to do the whole season." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." So I did the whole season pregame and halftime for the Union. And oh my gosh, like looking back, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to communicate ideas with like clarity and being concise, and probably just was super repetitive. And I feel icky now thinking about that 10 years ago. But yeah, someone got my film at ESPN and we're like, "Hey, we would love for you to work in the SEC. We're launching this network." And yeah, I've been calling games since 2015 and definitely found more comfort in calling games rather than being in the studio. And I think it's a really unique way because I feel really fulfilled teaching. Like that's really my passion in life. And I feel like broadcast is just an avenue to do that.
So 2014 began your work in the JP Dellacamera School of Broadcasting, was it?
So actually, ironically enough, he was the lead play-by-play at the Philadelphia Union
Yeah.
back then, and I was, the halftime. So I didn't work with him directly, but our paths obviously crossed in our pre-show meetings and whatnot, and I got to hear him back then. And now I work with him every single week, and he's the best of the best. He makes anybody feel comfortable. It is so easy to call games with JP. He is the best to ever do it in women's football.
Now you do the games together on Ion, correct?
Yes, every single week I get to spend 4 or 5 hours with JP at least.
And you do those broadcasts in front of the monitor, or do you do those in the stadium?
Yeah, we do those from our studio in Fort Lauderdale. So we travel there every single weekend, all 27 match weeks. And yeah, it's a little bit more difficult, but there's positives and negatives to everything in life.
Yeah, well, work is work, right? You go where they tell you to go. So, but you also do the games on Prime, and I'll give you everybody the list of all the outlets for NWSL, but you do games on Prime as well. You do those every Friday night?
No, just a few throughout the season. I started working with them last year, and then I'm back again this year. And it is a much different type of show than Ion. There's a 10-minute pregame show. There's a 10-minute postgame show. And with Ion, they have their own studio. So we just work the first and second half. So it's a little different. And the objectives for each broadcast is different. Like Amazon really goes heavy in on the storytelling, and they have sideline people there to do interviews. So it's much more, you get a behind the scenes look, where with Ion, it's more, we're calling the game and we're going to excite you with what's happening in the game.
Yeah. So I'm going to run through the list here and tell me if I missed anybody. ABC, ESPN as well, CBS, Paramount. You have NWSL Plus that games appear on, and also Victory Plus, which is kind of a new venture. Can you explain to me what that is?
Yeah, I actually forgot to mention that I'm working with Victory Plus this year.
Well, there you go.
It's a streaming platform, and it will house, I think, all of our games. I don't think NWSL Plus is actually going to be an outlet anymore. I think Victory Plus picked up the rest of those games, and it's free for anybody. So if you don't have cable, you can watch every single Victory Plus game. And if you do have cable, you can watch every Ion game as well, because it's free for anybody who has cable.
And some of us, like me, the cable's cutting my cord. I'm an old guy, and so I've had cable forever. Now they're cutting me. So go find the games. Look it up. Say, hey, where's my game today? And you'll find it. You mentioned a little bit about the teaching, but what else is it about broadcasting that gets you on that plane to go down to Fort Lauderdale, that gets you excited about doing this every week?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel so challenged by it. And I am a teacher at heart. I own a company that trains goalkeepers and works with goalkeepers from ages 8 to professional. And, even when I played on the national team, I remember saying to our goalkeeper coach, like, I don't want Hope's job. I want your job one day. And I just always felt so fulfilled being able to help people realize their potential. And I think in our country specifically, we get a bad rap for not really understanding the game or not really knowing the game. And so I feel a deep sense of responsibility to educate myself so that I can clearly articulate to our fans, to our audience, different moments of the game, what's happening, small nuances of defending or attacking or structures and tactics, but also just really being able to lean into some of the stars within our league, which make them the best in the world, but people who fly under the radar too, and what makes them special that often goes unnoticed. And, like I said, I still get very anxious before I go on TV. And I think that when I played, the mental side of goalkeeping was what I struggled with the most. And now I feel like I have a second chance to be able to deal with that pressure in a different way.
Yeah. Anybody who's broadcast for a minute or for 50 years will tell you one of the great things too about it is that every time you go into the stadium, you have got all your notes, you've got your charts, you kind of know the way the game's going to be played. something will happen. Something always happens that you didn't expect, right? And I think that's always been one of the exciting things for me about broadcasting sports.
Oh, absolutely. And immediately when you said that, my head went to there was a playoff game between the Portland Thorns and the Washington Spirit. And the Portland Thorns had an attacking corner kick, and out of nowhere, the Washington Spirit attacked so quickly. It was something so beautiful because you never saw that coming. You could have watched 100 times and that would have never happened. But it's just so beautiful how a goal can come out of absolute thin air. It's shocking. It's got you, at the edge of your seat, and you're just gripping on to your people that are around you. And oh my gosh, I can't believe I just witnessed that. And I get to do that every week, and I get to tell that story every single week. It's so fun.
I broadcast, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of soccer matches, probably more than that. Never added it up. And I honestly have seen a lot of 0-0 games that were awesome. I've seen 3-3 games that were okay. That's fine. I mean, the criticism by the decreasing number of Americans who aren't familiar with soccer, thankfully, is that it doesn't have enough goal scoring. But for me, that's not really the payoff. Great goals are awesome. I mean, the athletic ability, but also incredible athletic play by goalkeepers, incredible tackle in the middle of the field. These kinds of things are what attract me to the game as much as the goal scoring, I think. You?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I've called some really amazing 0-0 games, and it's not necessarily about the chances. I really appreciate when I can tell what teams are trying to do tactically, when there's some trends and there's, efforts of whether, we're trying to get into the wide space and it's working, or we're trying to get in the wide space and it's not working, and this is how we've adapted. I prefer those types of matches because I think it's fun. It's really challenging to try to pick up on like what these coaches are doing and some of the trends across world football and how that is being implemented within the NWSL. But yeah, I have a deep appreciation for risk as well. So where are teams willing to take more risks and where are they not willing to take risks? And I think being able to articulate that to people, like no matter how you play, you're assuming risk. And I really like to try to figure out where are they willing to take more risks, where are they not willing to take more risks, and how is that helping them or how is that hurting them? I think that's a really fun puzzle to try to unlock every week.
As you prepare for the start of this 2026 season, what are the big 2 or 3 things? What are the big stories about the NWSL this year that we need to keep an eye on?
Well, I think last year the story was the runaway dominant team of Kansas City Current, and I do not expect for them to be able to replicate the type of success that they had last season, which kind of leaves the door open for other teams to be more competitive within the league. And I'm curious to see what teams are going to pop up, because every year you can kind of reinvent yourselves, and with the turnover in coaches and the training that happens within our league, like how is Bay going to respond now, picking up some players that they added to their roster, like Claire Hutton, or having a new coach. Like I think those are the stories. I'm also really excited to dig a little deeper into statistics this season personally, because I think people can get on board and there's buy-in when you have receipts to your opinions. And so getting I think the score lines don't always give you the best view of how the game went. To your point, it's not high scoring, but I think when you can add statistics in, it makes the picture a little clearer of how a team is really doing, and not just using the score lines to tell you if they're performing, they're over or underperforming. So I'm really excited to dive into that a little bit more and educate people on like what expected goals is, because I think there is a resistance to it. But when you understand it, you're like, oh, I can understand how that is super helpful to teams.
I get the feeling, and we haven't known each other, but by the nature of the beginning of our conversation, that you're not afraid to share your opinion, that you dive right into things that you feel very strongly about. I think I've got that figured out, right?
I try to be as unbiased as possible, and I try to always have a backing of why I feel a certain way. This offseason, I went, and it took me hours and hours and hours, but I had this opinion about a trade, and I went back and looked through some statistics, and I'm like, well, now I have something to back up my opinion. And it's not to say that my opinion is going to for sure happen, but I'm trying to set myself up in a way that it's probably more likely that it will happen. But if not, then you can say, well, there is an element of luck or overperformance. And either way, I just think it's more fun when you have this opinion to have some kind of backing behind it where people can understand why you would think that, rather than just saying a hot take, for likes or to get attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is the lasting contribution one makes, and we all, as broadcasters and as viewers and consumers, appreciate it. One of the important endeavors in your life is the Jillian Loyden Foundation. If you wouldn't mind sharing with us what you do and why.
In 2012, I lost my sister. Her life was taken by her intimate partner. And so I started a nonprofit organization to raise awareness for domestic violence. And I speak to people of all walks of life about my sister's story and how it impacted me and other people, and also to share some warning signs of domestic violence, because I didn't know. I wasn't educated about the symptoms and signs of domestic violence. And if I was, I would have realized that all the signs were there and that I could have been more proactive in helping my sister. And instead, my ignorance was something that I live with, and something that I don't want any other person to have to live with. So I go around and I get to share my sister's story, which is one that's very uplifting, one that's also very jarring, but also educate people on some signs, and ultimately leave them with a sense of worth and value in this world, and also a sense of responsibility, because people knew this was happening to my sister and they didn't say anything. And I don't condemn them. However, I do want to encourage people to use their voice to speak up for what's wrong and speak up for what they believe in. And I get to do that, and it's really fulfilling work for me. And I think for a long time, it was really hard for me to speak about my sister. And it wasn't until we actually won the gold medal in 2012 at the London Olympics that I realized that I wasn't fulfilled by football and achievements and accolades, and that really maybe something that was going to be more fulfilling with me was be a greater impact in this world, and being able to, although I did never want to talk about domestic violence, being able to be vulnerable and share, I think, and I know has impacted people. And so, that's what the work that I get to do. It's often really difficult work, but it's really fulfilling. It's really rewarding.
Yeah, I was going to ask you this, and I think you've answered it. Over the more than 10 years you've been doing this, does the messaging get any easier? Is it still really difficult to stand in front of a group of people and share these intimate details of your life and your sister's death?
I don't think it will ever be easy. I think about my sister every single day. I miss her dearly, and I look into strangers' eyes and I ask them to imagine the most important woman in their life. And really, who is that woman? It could be your mom, sister, a coach or a mentor. And at the end of my speeches, I always say, I don't ever want you to have to lose them like I lost the most important woman in my life. And I just hold that image of her and how she's impacted me. And it's still really hard. Like, I'm still grieving, and the grief pops up when you least expect it. But I know that that's how my sister led her life. She was a very, very strong individual. And to be able to speak about domestic violence to a room full of hundreds or 1,000 people is something that requires a lot of strength for me. And so she is certainly the force that is encouraging me to do that, so that other people don't have to face the same circumstances that my sister and my family have had to deal with.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for making a difference on many levels. And it's great to meet you. I enjoyed the conversation. And your season starts, I'm guessing, March 14th, a Saturday on ION. The season gets started, right?
At 4 p.m., Kansas City versus Utah. That's our first game.
Let's go right there. All right. So, well, we appreciate the time. Thanks, Jill.
Thanks, John.
Jill Loyden, one of the broadcasters on the NWSL, working with JP again this year on ION, doing some prime here and there as well. And she's been with us on the Soccer Media Podcast.